Hello everyone, welcome to the 15th iOS tutorial. In this tutorial, I will talk about the model. If you remember from previous tutorials, we talked a lot about the view and the controller. This time we will talk about the model, which is one of the important part of the MVC design pattern or model view controller. And also I will show you how to create the new file in Xcode. So first of all, you got how controller can talk to the view and also how view can talk to the controller. Now we want to know how controller can talk to the model. So let's move on. Here is the tip calculator application. The reason that I make all of my example on this application because it's so simple and you can concentrate on all of the new features but not the application itself. Once we get the new stuff and basic features, we can go ahead and design really complicated applications. But for right now, this is the view and these two are the controller. This is the controller. We need a model. Why do we need a model? For example, if I want to add another slider here and say this is for tax percentage because different states has different tax, and then it can calculate the tip and total. So I have to change the view controller, and most of these properties maybe are not applicable, or most of the calculations goes away, and we have to change the controller every time that we want to change anything in the view. So this is not good. That's why we need a model. So where is the model? If you think deeply, the model is basically our calculations. So we need to add this model into the new file. How do we create the new file? So this is the first time that we create the new file. If you go to the file, if you are on Xcode, click on Xcode everywhere on Xcode, and then file, and then new, and from new you select file or command N, and then you will see a new window, and on the left hand side under iOS Coca Touch you will select the Objective-C class and then you will hit next. So this time you can specify a name for this class. For this purpose we just select a name like and tip calculator model. And what is a superclass? We talked about the NS object that in all other classes in Objective-C inherit from this class. So we say NS object. So because this is not UI view controller or anything else, so it's better to be the subclass of NS object. And hit next. And I will show you the directory of the application. So make sure that it's in the right directory, which is our tip calculator. And it will go in this side and then hit create. So as you can see, it created two files with the name that you specified, tipcalculator.h, tipcalculator.model.m. Okay, what do we need inside of the model? Let's just copy paste all we have in the inside of this method and see what do we need, and then we can remove unnecessary files. So I just copy the update result method inside of the tip calculator model.m. Go here and copy paste it here. So of course we have a lot of built error. But the first thing that we see is the tip percentage. The tip percentage in viewController.m was an instance method. In this tutorial I just want to use property instead of instance variable. So let's create a property. How do we create the properties? Sorry. We just come here and we have to put it inside of the interface and end. Since it doesn't have interface and end, we have to create interface. So we copy paste it from .h file and put it here, and instead of this we have to put open and close parentheses, and then we can define our property. @ property non-atomic strong int, and then tip percentage. Let's just copy paste tip percentage here and close. But we will get an error for this because this is not a pointer. See, we don't use pointer for the int, float, id because they are not a pointer. We just use star for ns number, ns integer, ns string, ns dictionary, all of the Objective-C classes, but we don't use it for C classes like int, float, id, or these stuff. So we, instead of strong, we have to say assign. So this is the way that we create property for these type of variables or properties. Okay, so far we created a tip percentage. So we don't need this line of code because this is just a setter for tip percentage. We have to set it inside of the view controller once we create this class. So we don't need this line of code. Just delete it. And next thing, we have to create a property for bill amount. How much is the bill? So we do the same thing as we did for this property. We just copy paste it, but this time it's kind of float instead of, and the name of it is bill amount. So, and also it doesn't need the setter, so we remove this as well. And this needs a self because it's a property and it's at the instance variable, so we put self dot, and also this one also is the property self, and bill amount, self again. And here, if you remember, these are just a wrapper. I use these two wrappers to show you again how we can use the ns number. So for this tutorial, I just don't want to use these two wrappers because these are extra. We can use another way in order to have a string value of these two float. So if we just remove these two lines, and instead of this, right now we just use the wrapper and a string value. Instead of this, we can just say this is tip amount. We can add a tip amount here, and instead of %@, we say %d. Because this is float, it is %f. So we would %f. And for this one, we also delete this, and instead of the wrapper, we put the total bill. And it needs also %f. And of course, we don't want to resign a first responder from the model. It should be inside of the controller. So let's see what else it needs. Okay, it says tip amount label is not found. So of course it's not found because this tip amount label is inside of the view controller, not inside of the tip calculator model. So what we can do instead of this, if we think about the model and we think when we want to use this method inside of the view controller, we want two values out of it. The first value is the tip amount and the second value is the total. So we can store these two values inside of the dictionary and then send the dictionary to the view controller when they request for these two values. So let's just create a dictionary, and it's mutable dictionary actually, mutable dictionary, and we call it results. And the way that we initialize it is just ns mutable dictionary alloc and then init. And then we can add objects. We say results set value. What is the value? Value is this line of code. The value is this. The value is this. For what key? The key, we can say tip amount. So it means when in the view controller, when we ask for the tip amount key, it will give us this value, which is the tip amount. So we would do the same thing for total. Just copy, paste, set value, and instead of this value, we just set the total here. Set total bill. And for what key? We say total bill. Now we can remove these two lines of code. And so because we want to return NS dictionary, it's not void anymore, so it should be NS mutable dictionary and star. And then we have to return it. If you see this error, we have to return it. So we return this results dictionary. So this is all we can do inside of the brain. Now it's the time that we use this model inside of the view controller. If you go back to the view controller.m, and the first thing that we have to do in order to use that model is to import the class that we created. So we import and say the name, which is tip calculator model.h. We just import .h file. And then we can come here and instantiate this class, which is tip calculator model star, which is a pointer, and the name tip calculator model. You can put whatever name that you want, and then allocate memory tip calculator model alloc and init. So we initialize it. Let me put some space here. Then we have to see, this is the first line, we have to set the tip percentage. We have tip percentage property inside of this. Let's see if we can see this tip percentage. We put dot and we try to find the tip percentage. As you can see, it doesn't suggest anything. Why? Why it doesn't know? Because if we go back to the tip percentage.m, we define the properties here, which is private. If we want to that other class and other classes can see these properties, we have to put it in .h file. So I just cut and paste these properties inside of the .h file. Also, we have to copy paste this method as well, the name of the method, because right now view controller cannot see, so we have to put it inside of .h file. So let's go back to the view controller and see if we can access to that property. And now we can access it. So this tip percentage, we can put this equal to the slider value. So we can remove this line. The next thing is the other property. Tip percentage, oh no, tip calculator model dot, this time if we look at the view.h file, it's bill amount. So we go back and say bill amount. Oh, I have to go to the view controller. I open the, okay, this time bill amount equals, and we put this total equals this, so we can remove this line of code as well. And these calculations are inside of our model, so we don't need them. We don't need this calculation. But in order to set this label, we can use our dictionary and the method that we create. So let me just delete these two. For the tip amount label, we know that we have a method in tip calculator model, which is result. What's the name? Calculate result. If you forgot the name, you can go ahead and see update result. So we go back to the controller and say dot update result. So we know that if we use this, it will return a dictionary. But what we want from this dictionary, a value from the key, which was tip amount and total bill. So how do we access these values? We have a method which we already know that we can use. So this is our dictionary, and we can say object for key, and this is because this tip amount. We would say object for object for key tip amount. So what it does, it just goes to this dictionary and get the value that has a key with this, and set this label. So next we would do the same thing, but this time we want a key. We want the value for key, which is, you can see the keys and values here anywhere. See, we set the key for tip amount. We want the total bill this time. So we go to .m file, and this time it's total bill. So if I run the program, it should do exactly what we had before without any error. So I'll just run the program. Okay, it should work as we expect. $100 bill, calculate it with multiple decimal points, but it works. But one more thing that we have to update is when I try to change the slider, see, the slider value is not changing. So let's fix this issue as well. If I make the default, and you see, this is where we use the tip percentage. So because we don't have tip percentage anymore, that's why it doesn't update it. This is the method that updates the tip percentage. So we have to change this and set it as a tip percentage property. But because we define a local variable here, we cannot access it here. So let's create a property instead of local variable, then we can use it. So in order to define a property, we can say @property non-atomic strong, and this is the type is tip calculator model, and we have tip calculator model. Start tip calculator model. And if you see, I don't synthesize because we don't modify the setters and getters. This is the new feature that iOS 7 has. I will talk about iOS 7 features maybe after I finish all of the basic stuff. And also iOS 8. iOS 8 is coming, so keep tuned. Then we can remove this instance variable, and instead we don't need this as a local variable. We can say self dot, because we change it to a property, so we can just use it by putting self in front and use it. So this time we would say self dot type calculator model dot update result, actually the property, sorry, tip percentage. You have to put the tip percentage instead of this here. So right now we changed all of the things that we have to change. So let's test it again, and we put the $200 this time, calculate, and now the label is changed. So that's all. Keep tuned, and I will post all of this code on hookstack.blogspot.com. And if you don't understand any part of this tutorial, put your comments, and I will try my best to show the answer and tell you what's going on. Thank you so much. Have a good time.